Well, tonight, protesters attempting to tear down the Andrew Jackson statue in Lafayette Square outside the White House are facing jail time. Protesters clashing with police last night broke through the fence surrounding the monument to the nation's 7th president, using chains and ropes to bring it down. Jackson was a slave-owning president. Last night's clash, of course, came as the nation grapples over racial injustice after the killing of an unarmed black man in police custody last month.
And now President Trump is preparing to issue an executive order bolstering a federal statute against the destruction of monuments on public property already on the books.
And these anarchists and agitators, and call them whatever you want. Some people don't like that language, but that's what they are. They're bad people. They don't love our country. And they're not taking down our monuments. I just want to make that clear.
And here with us now is evangelist and niece of Martin Luther King Jr., Alveda King, and she is also the director of civil rights for the unborn for Priests for Life. Dr. King, thank you so much for being with us this evening. You know, to some, Confederate statues like this symbolize Southern pride, culture. To others, though, it's an offensive reminder of a very painful past. Where do you stand, Dr. King?
As a Christian evangelist and one who fights for the sanctity of life, I understand that America and around the world there are things called high places where we worship idols and all of that. Believe it or not, statues can be idols, and they are placed in high places where we hold human beings in high esteem. For example, the statue of Martin Luther King Jr. In many ways, some would consider that to be an idol. In many ways, I do, in that some people like Martin Luther King Jr., some people don't like Martin Luther King Jr. And there can be a lot of dissension and discussion around his life. And so I had many statues and things in my home, for example, and I began to move those statues out of the house. I want to remove the high places, but they should not be removed in the way that this is happening in America. President Trump is right to destroy, tear down, and deface and do all of these actions and hostility is not helping America. We must have law. We must have order. We must have sanity. I was in Tulsa at the rally. The rally was very peaceful with President Trump. There were fewer numbers, but millions of people watched the rally on internet and social media. And so it was an experience of coming back into America. It was a peaceful protest against tyranny. So I thought it was very effective. So I supported the president by going to that rally, one of the first events. Yes.
Dr. King, definitely a lot of passionate feelings around this issue. It feels like the scabs have been rubbed off and we're reliving old painful wounds that never really healed. What do you recommend in this moment where it seems like we're either vacillating between honest dialogue or an explosive confrontation?
I believe that we have to re-examine who and what we've been worshiping in America for many, many, many years. The skin color issue, we are one blood and one human race, not separate races. Many have worshipped money and all of those types of things, but these need to be discussions without violence, without destruction. So I do not support tearing down the statues and throwing them and breaking them apart and tearing up property. I don't support that, but I believe it is time to re-examine America's attitudes about who we really worship. And we actually do worship God. I do, at least.
You know, you mentioned it. You were in Tulsa this past weekend with other faith leaders for the launch of the Council for Racial Reconciliation. Dr. King, tell us more about the work and the people involved.
That particular meeting before we went to President Trump's rally was very powerful. We had people of faith, and it didn't matter about skin color or church denomination or political party. We were discussing the viewpoint of how we can come together. And my point was, we are Acts 26, we are one blood, and we can resolve our differences peacefully. And Jesus is our Lord in the Christian faith. So those were some things that we were discussing.
All right, Dr. Alveda King with Priests for Life, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much.